In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you our experience on the Octopus Agile electricity tariff over the last year, and compare this to our time on the Go tariff, and why you'd want to seriously think twice about being on a fixed tariff. If you want to find out more about the Octopus Energy Agile or Go time of use tariffs to help you decide which one may be best for you, I think you'll find the whole video useful. But if you're after a specific section, feel free to use the timestamps which I've left in the video description below. Specifically, I'm going to briefly explain how the Agile and Go time of use tariffs work, briefly tell you a bit about our home electricity use which will help you make some sort of comparison for your own setup and what may work for you, show you our entire year's electricity costs whilst on the Agile tariff in comparison to my previous year on Go and a fixed tariff with Octopus, and sharing with you some thoughts about which tariff we'll be continuing on and why. Let's check it out. Time of use electricity tariffs such as Octopus Agile and Go are designed to incentivize customers to shift their energy consumption to off-peak times in order to balance demand. These tariffs charge cheaper rates at certain times of night or day when demand is at its lowest, and higher rates at peak times like 4 to 7 PM. It's generally a win-win situation. Energy companies offer lower prices at off-peak times so they can better manage demand, and customers can lower the bills. The Agile electricity tariff is a beta product which is linked to wholesale electricity prices and is updated daily. The wholesale price of energy changes every half an hour based on factors like energy demand and what types of fuel are available. When more electricity is being used than generated, typically between 4 and 7 PM, wholesale prices rise. The Agile tariff luckily includes a price cap which ensures you'll never pay more than 35p per kilowatt hour for your electricity, guaranteed. Conversely, when there's too much electricity in the system, prices can go negative and customers are paid to use electricity and take it away from the grid. The Go tariff is a bit more conventional. There are two rates, a peak and an off-peak. The peak rate will vary by your region. Mine, for example, is 12.93p per kilowatt hour, and then the off-peak rate depends on which variant of Go you're on, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in the video. The original Go tariff, which I was previously on, had an off-peak rate of 5p per kilowatt hour for 4 hours from half past midnight to half past 4 in the morning, every day. These time of use tariffs are only available for households who have a secure SMETS 1 or SMETS 2 smart meter, which will essentially allow Octopus Energy to tell when you're using electricity and bill you accordingly. Not every household will want to be flexible to save money on a time of use tariff, but I suspect most will be able to save money on one. For us in May 2020, Agile provided the perfect electricity tariff option with being able to lower our bills whilst reducing our CO2 impact. Just to say, this is not a sponsored video and the views expressed are mine based on my own data and experiences. Now, for you to make a comparison, it's useful to know a little bit about a home setup and electricity use. So we're a family of 2 adults and 3 kids under the age of 10. We're usually out between 8 AM and 4 PM, Monday to Friday, but around most weekends. Our typical electricity use is around 15 kilowatt hours per day, approximately 5,500 kilowatts per year. That use mainly comes from using electric power showers, an oven, dishwasher, washing machine, tumble dryer, and charging our plug-in hybrid electric vehicle overnight, which covers our daily commute. We also have a small 2.85 kilowatt solar array on our garage, but no battery storage as of yet. I'll be comparing my last 12 months on Agile from early May 2020 to 2021, with the same 12 months on Go in the years 2019 and 2020, and lastly the Octopus fixed tariff. You might wonder why I'm choosing to compare Agile 2020 and 2021 data with Go 2019 and 2020 data, rather than using an app to compare what I would have been spending on each of these tariffs. Whilst these apps are brilliant, most basic comparison apps don't take into account the change in electricity use that you apply when on either of these tariffs. An example of this can be seen here, the same day in November 2019 on Go and 2020 on Agile. You can see how on the Go tariff on the left, I've shifted my car charging use to between 12:30 and 4:30 in the morning to make use of the 5p per kilowatt hour off-peak rate. With Agile on the right, I've shifted the car charging time by 2 hours to 2:30 in the morning to utilise the cheaper rate. Furthermore, on Go there was no attempt made to avoid or reduce our electricity use during the 4 to 7 PM period. whereas on Agile you can see our effort to avoid heavy consumption during this time. You should now be able to see how applying the standard Go cost comparison to your Agile energy habit doesn't make any sense at all. However, the subscription version of the excellent Octopus Compare can actually use different figures calculated based on your consumption and the settings provided by you to move your consumption to give you a fairer price for any selected tariff. However, this doesn't work for everything. For example, there is no way I'm waking up at 4 AM for my morning electric shower. They have added a shift exclusion range where you can prevent this function automatically moving your electricity usage, which typically can't be shifted. Comparing the previous year's usage isn't perfect either, with external factors like the coronavirus pandemic influencing our overall consumption being less than the previous year on Go, and therefore some of our ability to use electricity in those cheaper slots. However, with both my wife and I working for the NHS, we were still going to work and the kids into school, but after school sports and weekend trips all largely ceased during lockdown. Now let's check out the numbers over the last year. Just to note that the prices listed are related to the northeast of England and are inclusive of VAT. Starting with Agile, you can see that when we first joined in May 2020, we were achieving a ridiculously low average price per kilowatt hour over the first few months, undoubtedly related to the pandemic lockdown. Price plunges were commonplace, and within the first 3 months of being on Agile, we had 9 days of negative pricing where we were paid to use electricity. However, at the time of this recording, there has not been a price plunge since the 27th of December 2020. Prices during the day were lower than even the peak Go rates, and avoiding the 4 to 7 PM period was easy. As lockdown restrictions eased and businesses restarted with a new way of working, demand and therefore prices started to go up. However, shifting most of our use outside the 4 to 7 PM period was simple, and was still achieving a more than reasonable average of less than 10p per kilowatt hour. Heading into December and a very cold winter, demand and prices again went up. Some of the prices per kilowatt hour, which we were used to seeing during this 4 to 7 PM period, started to feature during the day and past 7 PM itself, and for the first time for us really underlined the importance of the 35p per kilowatt hour price cap. Unfortunately, the wholesale price of electricity continued to rise in January, and with that did our average price per kilowatt hour for subsequent months. Our annual price per kilowatt hour, including the standard charge, was 11.5p per kilowatt hour. Pretty impressive. It's easy to see how the very low rates when you first signed up to Agile would have skewed this. But that's the nature of Agile, it follows the market. Let's compare that to our previous year on Go. You can see the monthly figures are pretty consistent, as you would expect, and our final annual price per kilowatt hour including the standing charge was 12.07p per kilowatt hour. Given we are comparing different consumption amounts, we cannot simply compare the annual total. However, if we wanted to make some kind of price comparison, we could multiply our total consumption this year to the overall price per kilowatt hour on Go, so 5,389.5 kilowatt hours times 12.07p divided by 100 gives us £650.51. Take £619.94 away from this means a £30.57 difference. If you've looked across to the right of the chart, you can very clearly see that both Agile and Go are significantly cheaper than the fixed electricity tariff option. In fact, a massive £355.29 cheaper on Agile and £324.72 on Go. And this fixed tariff price has actually increased to 17.88p per kilowatt hour. So with all that data to chew on, it's pretty obvious that a fixed tariff will cost you more money than either Agile or Go. So unless you've got money to throw away, a time of use tariff such as Agile or Go will likely save you money. Even though over the year Agile appears to have worked out cheaper than my previous year on Go, I'm actually going to go back to the Go tariff, specifically Go Faster, and I'm going to tell you a few reasons for this in a moment. Go Faster is a tariff that was introduced in the winter of 2019 by Octopus, and it allows people to choose from a few different options of off-peak rates, which you can see here. You can see that these rates would benefit most people, in particular if you use things with high electricity consumption such as an electric car, hot tub or air source heat pump, which will drive down the average price per kilowatt hour. Things may be different if you have a home battery storage system coupled with being paid for exporting your stored electricity, but that isn't something I know a huge amount about and I'm not going to go into that in this video. Just to be clear, the cost per peak unit of electricity is fixed depending on your postcode. The off-peak unit rates are the same nationwide. Nevertheless, this video was created in May 2021, and depending on when you're watching this, things may have changed, and I would encourage you to do your own research into prices in your area and available tariffs from suppliers. As I mentioned previously, it's always been relatively easy to avoid the 4 to 7 PM peak rates on Agile, However, over recent months, some of those higher prices have overspilled past the end of the peak at 7 PM and also into the morning and afternoon time slots, making it more difficult to avoid high prices. Whilst I'd be happy to keep an eye on those high rates outside the 4 to 7 PM period and shift my electricity consumption, this hasn't always gone down so well with everyone in the household. And looking back at the figures with only cost in mind, a £30 saving for the time invested in shifting electricity consumption around isn't sustainable. Regular fixed off-peak rates have made it easier to plan electricity use around or even set and forget. Don't get me wrong, we still do aim to keep the majority of our electricity use outside the 4 to 7 PM peak periods to help reduce our CO2 impact. On Agile, we often found the cheaper electricity prices were in the early hours of the morning, and some of our appliances don't have a delay start function or smart capabilities, making it difficult to access these overnight prices. Go Faster's cheaper rates start at 8:30, which allows us to have a set period where we can charge our electric car at a guaranteed cheap rate, something over recent months on Agile we just couldn't guarantee, as can be seen by these prices here. Switching to Go Faster means we can manually start and safely run our tumble dryer and dishwasher etc. during wake hours and reduce our fire risk compared to running these overnight. Wholesale energy prices in recent months have been higher, and there are a number of reasons for this, which is covered in this excellent blog which I've linked in the video description box below. During the recording of this video on the 13th of May 2021, Octopus have unsurprisingly increased the peak price per unit of electricity on the Go and Go Faster tariffs, in line with other tariff increases. However, you can see the peak rate in our region is still lower than the fixed price of 17.88p per kilowatt hour I showed you earlier, and crucially the off-peak rates have not been affected by this price rise. The new May 2021 Go and Go Faster peak prices by region can be seen here. The daily standing charge has remained unchanged at 25p per day. The prices per unit of electricity in my opinion are still pretty reasonable when you think that the average price per kilowatt hour on a standard tariff for England, Scotland and Wales in April 2020 was 16.36p per kilowatt hour based on the previous 12 months. I imagine given that wholesale electricity prices have gone a bit crazy, most energy companies' electricity tariffs will be understandably reflecting a price increase so they don't lose out. So despite this price increase, I believe Go and Go Faster still represents a very competitive smart tariff and allows you to lock in these rates for a year, unlike the Agile tariff. One thing I haven't mentioned is which Go Faster tariff was chosen to go for. We've actually gone for the 3 hours at 4.5p per kilowatt hour, as our daily charging and main white goods electricity consumption can be scheduled in this time frame. As you can see, this depends on your electricity usage. If you're not sure which one you should go for, I'd suggest that you just sign up to the one that you think will be best for you, and once you've been on that tariff for about a month or so, you can use the excellent Octopus Compare app to compare the different options and see which is cheaper for you based on your actual electricity usage. You can see on the right for us that even though some of our higher electricity use goes past the 3 hours of the 4.5p per kilowatt hour, it is still cheaper than if we were paying 5p per kilowatt hour for 4 hours. If you're on Go or Go Faster prior to the May 2021 peak price increase, I recommend you don't try and switch your current off-peak option, as you'll rejoin on the higher peak rates unless you're absolutely sure you can drive enough of your consumption into the cheaper off-peak prices. And again, you can use the Octopus Compare app to look into this further. Although it's only been a short period of time that we've been on Go Faster, you get the idea here of what our average daily price per kilowatt hour looks like. Averaging less than 10p per kilowatt hour, rates we consistently saw between July and October 2020 on Agile. If you're already with Octopus NG to request a switch to Go Faster, you need to email smart@octoenergy.com. Include your Octopus account number and explain that you'd like to switch to Go Faster. I've written out the email in the video description below, so all you need to do is copy and paste, and don't forget to change the account number. If you're new to Octopus Energy and know someone who is already with them, you can ask for their referral link, which will give you and the referrer £50 energy credit each if you get a quote and sign up using that link. If you need a referral link, I've dropped mine in the video description box below. As mentioned earlier, for any time of use tariffs you'll need to have a secure SMETS 1 or SMETS 2 smart meter. If you don't currently have one, you can still join Octopus and temporarily go on a fixed tariff or tracker tariff whilst awaiting your smart meter installation. And if you want to find out more about the tracker tariff, I'll leave a link to that video in the end screen for you. An alternative would be asking your existing supplier to install a smart meter before you switch. Once Octopus have confirmed they are receiving your half-hourly consumption data, they will invite you to apply for your chosen time of use tariff. Just to be clear, I absolutely have no regrets on moving onto the Agile tariff or for staying on it even when the prices were higher. It has made us more aware of when and how we use electricity as a family, how electricity is priced, and the wider implications on the environment. I don't doubt that Agile is probably the best tariff to help people reduce their CO2 impact given its dynamic nature, but as a consumer I need to balance the financial challenges with this. The savings we'll be making from being on these time of use tariffs will be used to reduce our environmental impact in other ways, for example choosing more sustainable items, reducing our water consumption, and how much energy we use in the first place. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to check out the Watch Next video or some of the other content appearing on the screen right now. If you've learned something new, then please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel to keep up with new content we'll be uploading. If you have any questions or thoughts, be sure to drop them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, see you next time.